Jr. is a human rights lawyer, legal practitioner, an activist, and also a policy analyst. So we'll be delving straight into the issue on ground now, the state of the nation. Good afternoon and welcome to the program.
Yeah, good afternoon. It's good to be in your studio once again.
All right.
I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for coming. All right, just before we came in, we saw the swearing in of the new senior advocates of Nigeria, which brings to mind the issue of the judiciary. So I'll go straight to the main issues, the ones that have caused a lot of controversies before maybe we go into anything general. There have been a number of judgments recently, and we've been seeing allegations from opposing parties that there is some sort of plot to cause a one-party system. One of those cases, interestingly, is the case of Kano State, where we saw that the CTC seemed to have contradictory statements. What can you tell us about that? There have been different schools of thoughts on that issue.
Yes, it's quite regrettable that we are at this abysmal, very low level, whereby the confidence of the ordinary people in the street is far eroding as to judicial pronouncement. It is very appalling. It is not a good one at all. And I used to have so much confidence in our process. I used to defend the judiciary and hoping it to become one of the best, and in my own little way, evolution and encouragement. More particularly, I am not in the full position to actually speak as to the Kano State, but the little I could deduce is it's quite shameful that some people are giving it several correlation and they're giving it rhetoric. There is a pattern, and it has always been the rule that incidental mistake, slips, little errors can be made in a judgment, but not in an election matter of that magnitude, a governorship election, whereby a major part of the operative part of the judgment, the declarative part of the judgment, it seems to be in the negative, different from the pronouncement of the judge in the open court. I do not subscribe to that, and I urge the NJC to investigate. I don't subscribe to that, wherever the narrative, because that is a judgment that was pronounced in the open court. It should reflect what was pronounced in the open court. It cannot reflect otherwise. It should reflect what the and as of today now, we have two judgments in circulation: the purported corrected copy and the copy of the CTC that was issued to the AMPP's team. Yes, and so we have two judgments on one matter before the going to the Supreme Court, and I urge the Supreme Court to give justice. And this calls for why there should be reform in our judicial sector. The past NBA president Olumide Akpata has always stressed that the means, medium, and way through which the appointment of justice are being made to the Superior Court, it should be revisited. And some people started calling him out and saying he's trying to expose our judiciary to ridicule. But no, that is not it. It's with what has happened. More importantly now, there are conflicting judgments coming from different parts of Nigeria. Before, there's what we call star decisis, hierarchy of court, precedent, whereby the precedent of a court, of a superior court, is binding on the tribunal and the court of appeal. I personally, I was involved in the election petition, and I can say I lost unfairly on the same principle of Peter Obi versus INEC and APC, whereby both the court of appeal has upheld that the provisions are to section 285 sub 5 and sub 4 sub 5 of the first code of the electoral act as to the issue of subpoena witnesses, that they must be filed alongside with the petition. In my own case, I handled at the court of appeal. The court of appeal discountenanced the Supreme Court decision of Peter Obi and APC. And in my own case, in Aminu Chindu versus the APC, it was very appalling and so shocking that the court in that case, for the Katsina Central House of Representatives constituency, the court in the same court of appeal in an interlocutory decision actually expunge some documents, actually expunge some basics, some witnesses, disqualify the witness. I was surprised in the case I conducted at the Court of Appeal. The new panel hearing this matter disregarded their own court judgments, discountenanced it, and used documents and evidence expunged by the Court of Appeal. I have submitted my petition to the NJC, and I expect them to give us a definite hearing of that matter, because we cannot continue like this. Because if we continue like this, I will decide to keep quiet. That means we are heading for anarchy.
Can you educate us? You being in the judiciary, when you say you've written to the NJC,
yes,
what can the NJC do?
They should revisit the issue. I might not have the right of a review, but that is impunity.
No, I just want to know what the process is like.
Yes, you submit
what powers does
the NJC
have?
Is actually the reviewing agency, and this very agency for Nigerian judges.
All right,
taking into account things and steps in inimical judicial processes where justices are engaged with. It has come to a point whereby we need to start asking ourselves select questions. A fisherman in Katsina was telling me of a story in Zafar, whereby a man was actually in his farm, and they came to tell him to wear his agbada, that he's now a House of Assembly member in Zafar. The man said, he said, Shenge Supreme Court. And he said, how? I don't know if you get it. They don't understand what is happening. How did we get here? So the next day, all of them there, they were agbada, and they were in the House of Assembly, and they were asking themselves, what are we doing here? They don't know how, because the process is not flawed. Our judiciary used to be the bastion and hope of Africa, but today I don't know what is happening, and it's something the handlers, everybody must find a way to call for judicial reform, because this is the only thing remaining. Because once a country judiciary is not able to address the yearnings and the problems of disputes between parties, then investors will not come to that country. The first thing an investor, a foreign investor, will look at is, he will look at it and say, oh, this economy is viable. There's a process in which I can get resolution if my money is being held. But when you don't trust the judiciary, how will the investors come into that country? So we should tell ourselves the truth to our face, that we need to rebrand and reform the judiciary. This is beyond lawyers trying to earn a fee. This is beyond we trying to sit on the fence. This is the only, some lawyers will tell you, don't talk. But I said, no, we must address this issue. If I can practice in Nigeria, I can practice in Kenya, I can qualify, but this is our country. This is our country. And when things are bad, we need to tell ourselves the truth. Chidi Odikalu, in calling out for that judgment of Kanu, he called the judgment a crooked judgment. Is that bad? Is that bad? Because how do you explain? How do you tell a layman that the CTC, not the draft copy, not the judgment itself, the CTC of a judgment, there is error? How do you tell a layman? And you not tell the layman, you are telling the lawyers to return the judgment to them. When you don't even, by virtue of the provisions of the Constitution, you have 60 days. And after that 60 days, you are photos official. You don't have powers to talk about that. You just deliver it and you give parties their judgment to go on appeal. And you don't even have the power. So how can you even correct? So it's an abysmal law. But that is not to say there's not some sections or some part of Nigerian judiciary that are not doing well. It's commended for the aspect that some of them are there. But I have a problem with these various election panels. There is something fundamentally wrong with our panel, and it calls for consideration, whereby we either have to go back to the waste reports by creating a special election court for our election panels, or we find a way to appoint independent lawyers who have judicial experience to man this various election panel. And we have to screen the process of appointing judges. Where they say political sponsorship, political membership is a pre-election matter, in one section of the country, Court of Appeal, the other Court of Appeal, can the Court of Appeal be giving contrary decisions against yourself, and somebody is saying we should keep quiet? No.
Well,
And that's
hasn't
how
the Supreme Court also ruled on that pre-election matters being something?
Sometimes, like in my own case, the Court of Appeal clearly disregarded the Supreme Court and give them their own interpretation. And I would not have a right of redress painfully, and the man is out of his seat. They use document in my own case to disqualify a sitting House of Rep member. How do I console him? How do I tell him that this is how on earth can I, how will the constituents who went to vote for that man, how will they feel? Are we not considerate enough to understand that a failing judiciary is cause for anarchy? We should tell ourselves the truth. The judiciary should sit up.
Right. You know, the CJN spoke about not letting emotions or letting the mob control their decisions. You know, do you think that's what how some of these criticisms are being taken, that it is just the mob talking?
They should not say it is a mob talk. It is a fundamental problem. It's beyond the mob talk. With all due respect to the Chief Justice of Nigeria, they should consider the review process of appointment of judges.
Do you think lawyers who might have benefited from this should also be speaking? Because then it seems as though it is the people who lost who have issues.
One thing about justice is, when justice is not fair, it comes a way of biting you back. They are celebrating today because they seem to be benefiting from the system, from the flawed process of the judiciary process. But a day will come where it will come back and haunt them. It's just like karma. So it's not because some of us were lost. If you want to lose in judicial education matters, let it be on ground of principles and law, and you know you have lost fairly. But where you don't lose fairly, then it calls for questions. That is my own take. I don't have a problem. You must not win all cases. You will definitely lose some. But whereby you lose to some specific flaws, like the clear case I just mentioned, where a judge disregarded an earlier judgment of the Court of Appeal as to document that should be used in determination of the matter, still went back and used those documents, in essence, flexibly overturning the decision of the same Court of Appeal, of which is a part of. What do we call that? How best can we explain that? Am I maligning judiciary? No. Is a consideration, is a thought, is a thought-provoking issue.
Well, this is what I asked before, what the judiciary is like. At this point, assuming something is done, investigations are carried out, whose job is it to start to, fix these things, to point out the errors?
The truth is that the system will reform itself, because I don't see our handlers actually looking into this issue. I think with time, when it gets out of hand, they will see the need to call for judicial reforms themselves.
All right, fair enough. The other issues on ground, I'd like to quickly get your thoughts on before we move on. Speaking about INEC appointments, recently, former INEC chairman, Professor Jega, sort of appealed to the president about some appointments or some, what's it called now, some, recommendations he made. It was said that some of the people who have been put into the INEC right now have affiliations to the president in the past, to the Senate president, to APC generally speaking. What do you make of that in terms of, you are speaking about, we were speaking just now about the judiciary, but INEC is also another body that is expected to, be neutral, to be of utmost, perfection to an extent, and we're seeing these things, What's your take on that and going forward?
In going forward,
2024
in going forward, the truth
year.
About it, if we really want a credible electoral process, this present INEC board and INEC chairman, they need to go, in all honesty. We had the Kogi state elections that came soon, and we have the one from the Imo state. They are very trite allegations, serious allegations, that even before the elections commenced, ballot box has been stuffed and filled up, and nothing was said about it. That is not the way to go. If we continue like this, we are heading for a banana republic. We must tell ourselves the truth. In reforming the judiciary, when you reform the judiciary, as I've always said this before, that INEC as it stands today is one of the most compromised organizations we have in Nigeria. There is no neutrality, there's no fairness, and there's no mechanisms to put them in check.
So it's all depending on the government in power?
The truth about the government, if they are sincere about credible elections, enhancing and entrenching good democratic processes, and building the electoral confidence of the citizen, this present INEC is not one, more particularly the management, and where you have as much as evidence abounds everywhere. I am personally handling a case against one of these INEC commissioners. He's a card-carrying member of the APC. How did we get this low? We should not pretend about these things. We should not pretend about it. We should not try to I can just talk and do a little of what I can do.
You know, but you are not even a party directly involved. What do you think is going on when those other parties, opposition parties, seem to be quiet?
That is their greatest undoing. And they come to say tomorrow, and they cry that the process and the elections were not free and fair, and raise all manner of accusations. So I'm really getting fed up with this system. And if it continues like this, some of us do not have any option than to quietly leave Nigeria and go to another country where we can have our sanity. In all sincerity. If it continues this way, that the basics of the very things that should make our society work, we don't get it right. There is no, it's like a farmer who goes to the farm and meet trouble and quietly leave his farm for trouble and go to sit in his house or go to sit in his neighbor's house. That is how it is. Because the problem are becoming more variable, and the APC, they are more confident, proud, and happy with the way things are going. Where in this world will you appoint a partisan member of a political party, whether it's APC or PDP, into an INEC board, and you are saying you are conducting free election? For God's sake, before you do that, and there are evidences, clear evidences, that some of these people, they have been card-carrying members, and the provisions of the Constitution says members to be appointed as reg will not be partisan or members of political party. And that is a total disregard of the constitutional provision. Why are we going this low?
Well, does it not say anything about former political party members?
Yes. Yes. It is clear on it that partisan political members cannot be reg members or former. It is clear, the provisions of the Constitution. And some of these people, they are still politicians. One way or the other, they are still politicking. Rhoda Gumus, as of the time he was still appointed, he has not resigned his membership of APC in Bayelsa. And is representing one part of the South Board in INEC as a reg member. How can we go like this? Where is this man who conducted the election in Adamawa? Where is he? Why has he not been brought to book? My brother, we need to talk to ourselves in this. The problem are becoming enormous. We need to tell ourselves the truth.
Yeah, that was an interesting question there. Truly, that's something that everyone should be carried along, because that was someone who very blatantly expressed or showed his partisanship, so to speak, and somehow we've not heard the end of that. Well, let's quickly move on now to the issue of government expenditure. There's been something that has been taking a lot of run time for the last couple of weeks now. We've been seeing journalists going, even opposition party, going into some of the books of these governments and checking their expenditures and so on and so forth. And we've seen in some states like Edo State and others where the expenditure for the state house is more than what the state generates within the same period. The most, I believe, a controversial one was the one in Lagos, where we saw an SUV being bought for the Chief of Staff's office for over 440 million naira. And when the government was, called to task for this, their response was, this reflects the current economic situation of things. That is, buying a 440 million naira SUV reflects the current situation or economic situation of things and so on and so forth. So what's your take on what we are seeing now? I think Nigerians are a bit more knowledgeable about what government is spending and what they are making. How do you think we can really begin to remedy this issue?
The political class, they are actually taking Nigerians of all stratas for a fool. And I really pity them, because when you push people to the wall and they don't have anything to live for, then they might look at means of actually. It's unfortunate that it's not just limited to states, at the federal level, at the local government level. Although there are some exceptions, good exceptions, where they use public funds to do things for the people, intervene, take steps, and all that. But however, the primary essence of government is the welfare of the people and the citizens. The truth about this whole discussion we're having, it's today's a little bit emotional, so with so much vigor. It has gotten to a point we cannot just keep speaking this grammar, and these people are going on with impunity. If they choose, for me, I feel the legislative houses, they should make governmental position appointments, not elected, purely voluntary. It should not be salary induced, paid, in order to discourage some of these.
You're talking about appointments now?
Yes, political appointments, board membership. There should not be salaries. Anybody who's interested in doing, going to those offices, let them use their personal cars. It's a call for service. So that some of these are debts, and some of these things will not be lucrative for them to engage in. Because how do you explain where majorly 80% of the poverty of the country, the ordinary people, they are struggling to eat 3 meals per day, and somebody is buying a car worth more than 100 million that he wants to perform governmental function? How do you want the citizen? Don't you feel the citizens will become so irritated? Nigeria is not a one-man's, it's not the home of anybody. It's a country of people, and people are put in political offices to administer, make administrative decisions, conduct decisions in the enhancement of governmental policies. So this aspect of it, where governmental bodies, state government, federal government, appointees, they are engaging in reckless expenditures at the expense of the very purpose to which they are sent for that office. What has any government, a government that was sworn in May 29, why will you buy a car worth more than 100 million? What have you brought into that particular sector for you to have the confidence to buy a car of that magnitude? This is impunity taken too far.
Well, do you think it would be fair to those appointees? Your suggestion about them doing it, out of the goodness of their hearts?
Yes.
They would say that they are also putting in the work.
Let them use their personal car. There should not be car for them.
Okay, you mean just cars? What about their salaries?
The you can give them salary. Okay. But it should be the fiscal mobilization. I think I've forgotten the name now. They should make it in a way that the salary is not so bogus and outrageous, so that we're in a stage whereby. But
then the salaries of government officials tend to look reasonable. It is the additions and so on that make
saying those additions should be taken away. Should be moderately like the civil servant, the ordinary civil servant in the office, and the part of this money should be channeled towards proper development, more construction of roads, free healthcare, education for the out of school students, the down who cannot, incentive, provision of business opportunity for the small, medium scale enterprises. This is how countries function all over the world. But Nigeria is an exception. Where do we go from here? In all fairness to this government, they are just new. Let me take it for who. Let me take that for who they are. But we expect more from them. And also too, we cannot move forward without calling for proper accountability. I heard the NSA the National Security Advisor the other day saying the last government, they ate a lot of money and left the treasury bankrupt. The question is, what is stopping this government from inviting those officers to explain, to account for their deeds when they were in office? Is it because they were APC? That is the thing. Let them come and explain. Investigate, give it to security agencies, investigate within time. Check, grant them be, investigate, check, recover, execute their powers under the various acts that creates them. That is how to go about real governance and accountability.
Do you think that's what's happening now with the former CBN governor?
I don't know about, but the thing is, I don't have mercy for him. Let him face his music. I don't think, I've always said it, there'll be karma for him. I said it here last year, and it's not up to here. And this is what it's. You remember? I said there'll be karma for him. It won't last too long. And this is where, so I don't, that is his problem. Whatever it is, let him face the music. I have his day in court.
All right, fair enough. Now we're already in the new administration, and I think people are trying to adapt. So I'll just like get your thoughts. This is more of an economic question, but then the economy affects us all. The CBN governor, Mr. Cardoso, said just about 3 days ago that the banning of or the restriction of forex on 43 items during the President Buhari tenure led to about 1.4 billion or 1.2 billion dollars being lost in revenue. And I just like to get your thoughts. With all we saw happening, do you think this might be something where we'll see the benefits somewhere, or was it all really for nothing at the end of the day? Closing of the borders, forex restrictions for the 3 items, and so on and so forth. And how long do you think reasonably Nigerians can begin to see a change? Because the message we are getting, we spoke about the NSA, different government officials across different levels have in one way or another hinted or outright said that President Tinubu met a dire situation. Without labeling too much or putting too much blame, they keep making that inference that he met a bad situation, so on and so forth. So how long do you think is reasonable for the average person to wait and see that, well, things might be changing? We just saw an article come out today, I believe, which says that all the indices economically, it has been worse since President Tinubu's assumption of office. So how long do you think the average Nigerian can begin to say, okay, let's give this time and maybe we might see changes?
It's quite unfortunate that the average Nigerians, their expectations will keep waiting and keep waiting. But I have confidence in God Almighty that one way or the other, succor will come. And I'm not going to vouch for this present administration. But I believe that it can't get worse than this. If it gets worse than this where we are now, I don't know what's going to happen. I leave that for anybody to guess. And it calls to the same issue. We need to leave party politics. There must be accountability. That is the first step towards restoring economic policy. What has happened in the previous times? This thing that happened, what brought about it? Why did it go this way? Why was this policy made? This money that is not seen anywhere. What happened? You remember, there was an aviation minister who said, we now have an airline. Who said, this is Nigeria Airline. Although it's been investigated, but please, the APC government, they should make their investigation and find this open. And it's very obvious that a lot of things went down in Buhari's government. We don't need to patronize anybody.
Well, he himself said that there might have been
that is the worst government in the history of Nigeria. We have never seen it that low. And I said something, no matter how bad the Tinubu's government is, which I don't think so, they cannot be as worse as Buhari. But the only thing they can get reprieve is accountability and redress. All the issues surrounding this government should be revisited. It's not just a mere fele. Emefiele is just one person. He worked with a concert of different persons. And I don't believe the notion that Emefiele is actually being retreated. No, it is justice taking its toll on him. And they should go on with all our prosecution. Anybody indicted, they should get them investigated. It's all so bad that we are in a very low state, and the confidence of the public and the ordinary people, they are about giving up. So the decision makers of Nigeria, I urge them, in all honesty, they should please look at how to get reprieve and respite for the ordinary people.
All right, Mr. Samuel Ihienseken Jr., thank you so much for coming. It's been a pleasure. All right, so that's how we end the program for today. Don't forget, the Polity reaches you live from Abuja every weekday, 2 p.m. to 3:30 p.m. Join us tomorrow once again for more analysis and breakdown of the issues where we look at and delve into the fine intersection of politics, governance, and the state of the nation. See you tomorrow. I am Amadin Ogbewe.